Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. Welcome to this session of video presentation on business communication. In this particular session, I will be discussing different issues related to business letters. I will first touch different types of business letters and what are the guidelines to compose business letters. Then I will focus on report writing, different types of reports, how to write reports, etc., etc. So at the beginning, I will start my discussion with business letter. This is a very common practice in business communication, and when you hold a management position, it is not at all uncommon that you will be required to write or draft business letters. There are different types of business letters. Let me give you a few examples. So, for example, reference letter, appointment letter, acknowledgement letter, letter of collection, letter of adjustment, resignation letter, etc., etc. So, how to write a business letter. Sometimes it happens that maybe your boss is asking you to draft a letter which is a professional business letter, or maybe you are dictating or you are asking your subordinates to draft a letter. So now I will be focusing on certain guidelines for composing business letter. Again, remember, to write a good or to draft and craft a good business letter, you have to have command in language. But at the same time, just having a command in language is not enough. At the same time, you need to follow certain guidelines. So here are the guidelines I am going to discuss shortly. Dear viewers, if you want to write business letter properly and thoroughly in a professional manner, I am sure that you should listen to these guidelines carefully. The guidelines are: number 1. There are a certain number of guidelines. Number 1, use short sentence. Yes, it is very much recommended that when you compose a business letter, you use short sentence. You should not go for unnecessarily lengthy complex sentence, because remember, if you write complex sentence, if you write lengthy sentence, the person whom the business letter is addressed to or person whom the business letter is meant for, maybe they will not understand. So it is always desirable that you write short, easily understandable sentence. Next, number 2, choose simple words. Dear viewers, even if you have very rich vocabulary, you should not demonstrate it, or it should not be reflected through your business letter, because this is a letter which is intended for a particular purpose. The purpose is the letter whom it is addressed to, the people whom it is addressed to. It's very important for them to understand the contents of the message of the letter. So that is why it is recommended that you choose simple words rather than going for difficult, rather than using any difficult, complex or uncommon words that might misguide the recipients of the letter. So it's better that you try to choose simple, easy words. Yes, next number 3 is avoid wordiness. There should not be too many words. There should not be huge jargon of words, application of the huge jargon of words. That's not the, remember dear viewers, it's not the objective. The objective is to communicate the message that you want to communicate exactly. So once this purpose is served, that should be enough. It's not the area, or it's not the place where you should demonstrate or your dexterity or skill or efficiency in the language. So it is recommended again that you avoid wordiness. Too many words, too many word expressions, please try to avoid this. Number 4, use an appropriate tone. We have to understand the nature of the letter. Is it a letter through which you want to communicate a bad news? Is it a letter through which you want to communicate an emotional message, or is it a letter through which you want to you want to make an attempt for sort of conciliation with someone, or is it a letter through which you want to persuade some customers to, etc., etc. So actually it depends. The tone of the letter should be in accordance with the objective of the letter. If the letter is addressed to the customers, there should be tone of persuasion. If the letter is something like you had some sort of rivalry with some parties, so you want to have a compromise, you want to reconcile with them, in that case your tone should be a conciliatory tone. If it is something like you are just in a rapport building process with some parties, it should be friendly tone, etc. Next is be precise. Be precise means the length of your letter should not be unnecessarily lengthy, unexpectedly lengthy. People don't have time, and of course, especially in the professional world, every single second counts. So you must keep in mind letter should be precise up to the points, up to the letter. I mean, there should not be unnecessarily lengthy. It is not expected. The unnecessarily lengthy size of the letter is not expected at all, is not at all desirable. Next, ensure accuracy. Well, this is very important. I mean, when you compose a business letter, you must be careful so that the facts and figures are not exaggerated. The facts and figures should be exactly what they are. Otherwise, the very spirit of the message, the very objective of the message will be disturbed, and in that case you will not definitely get the expected outcome of your efforts. Maybe you are, so that is why it is also recommended that, I mean, you should maintain accuracy. The facts and figures should be exactly the way, should be placed in the letter, should be explained in the letter exactly the way they are. There should not be any sort of exaggeration, there should not be understatement, there should not be overstep. Dear viewers, the next point is check consistency. Yes, your presentation in the letter should be consistent all through. That means from beginning to end. If you address like we, you should use the term we all throughout the letter. If you say I, that should be mentioned throughout the letter. So actually, not only I, it's a question of not I and we. Whatever you write from the beginning to end, you should maintain consistency. You should try hard to maintain consistency. Otherwise, the beauty of the letter will be de-beautified. So that is also another point of concern. If you want to write a good professional letter, consistency must be maintained throughout, from beginning to end. Your message should be, there should be sequence in the message. How you start the introductory paragraph, then the middle paragraph, then finally how you end up. So everything should be consistent. There should be flavor of consistency throughout the letter. That's very important. Dear viewers, the next point, the last one, is use your initiative. That means you should be, you should finish with on a positive note, and at the same time what you are going to do next, what some sort of solution or some sort of respite should be there at the end. So that is the initiative. So my dear viewers, these are the points which need to be kept in mind if you want to compose a good business letter. I am very confident that if you follow these guidelines, definitely it will be much easier for you, much more convenient for you to compose a professional business letter. But on top of everything, the most important thing is you have to be very smart in language. That will help you linguistically, but at the same time, if you are smart in language and at the same time you follow these guidelines, well, I am very confident that you will be able to compose excellent business letter. It will be a nicely drafted and beautifully crafted draft. There is no doubt about that. Dear viewers, with this I end up my discussion on some guidelines for business composing business letters. So next I am moving to report. In the professional world, especially in the business world, report writing is a common practice. Sometimes your boss will ask you to prepare a report, sometimes you will ask your subordinates to prepare a report. And of course, how nicely, how beautifully, how elegantly you can draft and craft a report, also that depends on your command in language. So every moment, from in all my lecture on business communication, one particular point I insist on: your communication cannot be improved. You cannot become a good communicator without having good command in language. So that's why language is actually on top of priority. Your linguistic command is #1 priority. Similarly, in the same way, report writing. When you write a report, when you are asked to prepare a report, definitely it is your linguistic command that matters most, because what you write, you have to be perfect in grammar, you have to be smart in using the words properly, right time at the right place. So these are the things which are very important. Dear viewers, there are different types of reports. Now let me say a few words about them. There are routine reports and special reports. Let me give you an example of some routine reports. Routine reports are like, suppose representatives, the sales representatives, they report on their sales visits, like progress report, safety report, equipment and maintenance report, etc. So these are some examples of routine report. Then let's talk about special reports. Special reports, actually these are the reports which are required to prepare due to special circumstance. Like, so for example, in response to request for specific information, it may be reports on a special topic after research and investigation. It may be, because of certain policy change of the organization, etc., etc. So these are, I have just I was focusing on two different types of reports. One is the routine report and the other one is special report. There are other kinds of reports also as well, like formal reports and informal reports. Now, dear viewers, I will focus. Formal reports are very important. This is a part of the professional life. Sometimes you will be required to prepare formal report. So it is now my turn to discuss the various guidelines that you need to follow to prepare a formal report. Remember, formal report means you have to formally present the report. It may be written presentation or it may be oral presentation, but formal report you have to maintain certain formalities. So you cannot you cannot afford the luxury to make any mistake, and that is why I think it is important for you, dear viewers, dear students, to stick to these guidelines. Okay, fine. First, let me before I narrate the guidelines, before I say a few words on the guidelines, let me tell you about the format of the formal report. Just a few words about the formal format of the formal reports, like say headings. Headings means what? Company name, report heading, the title of the report, this is heading. Then terms of reference. Terms of reference means why and under what circumstance you have been asked to prepare the report. This is the terms of reference. Next, procedures. That means dear viewer, when you prepare a formal report, you have to to prepare that report after some sort of investigation or whatever it is, you pass through certain procedures like questionnaires, interrogation, the visits of different sites, etc., etc. So these are the procedures. Then findings. Findings means the result or outcome of your research and investigation, what findings you have got. Actually, what is the outcome of your efforts to prepare the report. And finally, it is conclusions. Conclusions and recommendations. Conclusion means you just conclude briefly the findings, what you have got from the and what are your what you have got from the investigation, or what you have got from the inquiry, etc. So those are those should be explained or narrated briefly in the conclusions part. And finally, recommendations. That means on the basis of the findings, you place some recommendations to the authority. That means what the authority should do next from the findings or from this report. That is what should be, these are what should be included in the recommendations part. Then closing section, that means you finish or you wrap up your report by saying some words on your own. Then, dear viewers, on your own means actually it's not like anything you can say. No, it should be consistent with the report. It should be relevant to the issues of the report. Okay, dear viewers, now it is my turn to to have a look on the guidelines for preparing report. Remember, on top of everything, you need to have strong command over the language to prepare the report, because it's a presentation, it's a linguistic presentation, so you have to have strong command. But other than that, I mean, if you follow the guidelines, I am confident that you should be able to produce excellent formal report. So dear viewers, I would appreciate that you follow these guidelines for preparing report. Now let me discuss these guidelines one by one. Number one, state the facts. Yes, when you prepare the report, you must stick to the gun. That means, I mean, you try to explain the facts in toto. There should not be any sort of exaggeration. There should not be overstatement. There should not be understatement. You must cling to the facts. The things that happen on the ground, you should exactly, accurately explain those facts. Number one. Then number two, be objective. That means your personal biasness, your emotion, your sentiment should not be allowed in your presentation. You should be very objective. You should be very much aware of what every moment you should try to be aware of what is your mission, why you are preparing this report. That must be kept alive in your mind when you prepare the report. It should be impartial, absolutely unbiased in the preparation of the report, so that otherwise the very spirit of writing the report will be affected negatively. So that's one thing which need to be kept in mind. Next is be logical. Well, every of your statement, every of your explanation should be logical, supported by logic. That means, dear viewers, one thing you must understand: if you whimsically explain anything, well, that will not have acceptability. If your emotion plays some role there, or if your sentiment, if your personal biasness, well, if they are allowed to play some role, definitely your presentation is not going to be logical. So it is also recommended, dear viewers, when you prepare the report, you should stick to logic. Every dot and comma of what you are saying should be supported by logical, or should be logically acceptable. There should not be something, you know, which is out of a blind eyes, myopic. It should not be myopic. You should not be, you know, over emotional. You should not be, you know, I mean, emotionally charged. You know, you should let all these things to be aside when you prepare the report. Next, be consistent. Be consistent means when you prepare the report, your entire presentation should be consistent. That means from beginning to end, the physical get-up of the presentation should be very consistent. What does it mean? The spacing, if you follow double spacing, it should be followed throughout the presentation. If there is some sort of the font of the word, if it is 12, you should follow it throughout the 12. So the, you know, I mean, in terms of writing the paragraph, in terms of the word size, in terms of spacing, everything should be uniform, everything should be consistent all through or throughout the presentation, from beginning to end of the report. Dear viewers, the next point is be concise. This is very important point actually when you prepare a formal report. Throughout the presentation of the report, you should be concise. That means your explanation, your narration, your presentation should be up to the point. I mean, there should not be any sort of exaggeration or overstatement, understatement, and so on. It is not expected, since this is a very formal, you know, formal report. It should be formally presented, and no excess word, no excess presentation is actually desired. Therefore, it is always recommended that the person who prepares the formal report, that should be up to the point. It should not be unnecessarily lengthy, unduly lengthy. Next point is be clear. Well, it is very important, because the people who receive the report, unless you know, if there is any vague, if there is any unclear, hazy presentation, hazy expression in the report, that will misguide the people in the decision making, the people who are involved in the decision making. So naturally, it is expected that you make the presentation very clear. Use simple word, use you know, I mean, understandable sentence, use easy word, so that the people who receive the report, I mean, they should be able to understand the report clearly, absolutely, perfectly. And in that case, the spirit of the preparation, the spirit of preparing the formal report will be upheld. Well, dear viewers, before I wrap up my discussion, let me say a few words. So far I discussed different issues of business communication to you, and in this session I tried to cover a number of issues. I hope that my discussion will benefit you, and I am very optimistic that if you follow these different guidelines for composing business letter, for composing, you know, formal report, etc., etc., that will definitely help you in your professional life. And also I would appreciate that you give strenuous and stupendous efforts to ratchet up your comment in language. That will help you dramatically, there is no doubt about that. So wish you good luck, and I hope that you will become very good professionals by improving, by uplifting your standard in business communication.